Hey everyone, I'm just adjusting the camera a little bit so it's not quite so cockeyed. I think that looks okay. Hey, let me know if you're on. I hear Spectrum's having some internet issues today, so hopefully people can connect. We lost ours for a little while this afternoon, not long, but I know there's some issues on the east side. I guess I should get a mat that doesn't have a grid on it, so then you can't tell that it's crooked in the camera. It has a crook on the other side too. So this is the project we're going to make today, and some people are going to make the display and some people are going to make cards, and they're made almost exactly the same way, but I'll talk about the differences.
Mine isn't coming in.
I see that there's somebody out there, so I don't know if it's worse to have the project straight on the grid or let me. There, see? Now if I put the white paper on there, you can't see the grid. I just have to remember not to use my cutting knife on it. So we're going to have some fun with distress oxides in this project. I don't know how many of you have used them before. If you don't have them, that's okay, since I made the backgrounds for you already. But if you like the look of them and think what I demo looks like fun, you can always add some to your collection. This is the stamp set we're using today, and it's called A World of Octobers. You can order just the stamp set. You can also order the stamp set with the thin cuts. However, the thin cuts were not available when I ordered them. So that means we're going to be doing a little fussy cutting of our pumpkins today. But if you wanted to make some more, you could certainly buy the thin cuts and not have to do that cutting. And in your kits, everybody got a shimmer brush And that's what, I don't know if you could see it in the camera. Here you go. We're going to add some, oh, there you go. Seeing the pumpkin. We're going to add some shimmer to our piece here with our shimmer brush. Wondering about the internet connections because I'm not seeing people joining. I'm going to show how to emboss the sentiment panel up here. You guys all got one that was already embossed, but I figured in case anybody had never done the embossing before, I would go ahead and show it so you knew how it worked. And this is Harbor cardstock. Just bring my blocks over here, and I'm gonna put the October saying on a block. Get that a little straighter, and this little leaf here, and I'll show you how to do that. So I have a heat gun. Hi, Kathy. Glad you made it. This is a heat gun. If you're not familiar with it, it gets a lot hotter than a hair dryer. Do not attempt to use a hair dryer because it won't work. It doesn't get hot enough. This is my embossing powder. I used copper. In the catalog, we have gold and silver, but I have this from long ago, and I just thought copper looked better with these colors. So I went rogue and used what I had. The embossing powder usually comes in a little jar, which you can spread and then pour back in a jar. But if I have a color that I use a lot of, I'll keep it in a bigger container like that, just because I find it easier for me to work with. This is a Versamark stamp pad. Close to my heart sells these. It's a watermark pad, which means if you were just to stamp an image on a cardstock, eventually it'll dry, and it'll dry just a little bit darker than the cardstock, giving it a watermark look. But it's also a very sticky ink, so it's really good for embossing. And you might be able to see it, but you can feel it when you're inking up your stamp. The stamp almost sticks to the pad because it's very, very, very sticky. And I don't know if you can see that in the yeah, you can a little bit. You can just see that. So if you didn't emboss, that would be kind of the look you'd get, which obviously for this kind of stamp, not great. But if you wanted to do an image with an all over look and have it just be a little bit darker than your cardstock, it works for that. So I'm stamping both of these at once because it's a smaller panel, and it's not that, I can do both of them. I can stamp both of them relatively quickly. And I'm just using a spoon here to scoop up my embossing powder and spread it over my cardstock. And I usually have a small paintbrush on hand. I use both of it to tap off extra. And then I have a little embossing powder that's sticking to the cardstock, so I can just brush that away. And then never turn your heat gun on over your embossing powder because you will blow it away. This is going to be a little bit noisy, so if you want to turn down your volume, I won't talk while I'm doing it because you won't hear me anyway. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on, wait for it to heat up a little bit before I aim it to the embossing powder to warm up. Okay, so I found that letting it warm up first, it starts to melt the powder quicker once you do aim it towards there, so you're not blowing the colder air on it. You want to just, you saw I was moving it around to the different areas. You want to wait till it melts smoothly. You don't want to overheat it because it will burn, but you can tell when it's melted smoothly versus when it hasn't melted yet. So I'm sure you can see it more on the piece in your kit, how nice that embossing looks. The other tip is it does get hot. So I had enough room to keep my thumb here to hold it. But if you have a little piece, you might want to get something to hold it with, like an alligator clip. You can also put it down to heat it, but like I have my plastic cutting mat under here, and I don't want to melt that. So I didn't want to put it down on the surface. But if you had a surface that could take the heat, that would be fine. I also have a piece of cardboard, like corrugated cardboard, that I've wrapped in foil, which kind of reflects the heat back. That works as a nice surface to emboss onto. And hi, Cheryl and Lindsay. I did see that you were here right before I turned my gun on, so I just didn't want to talk through that. So I just wanted to show you how to do that in case you hadn't done it before. And then, of course, you have to wash all that sticky Versamark ink off of your stamps, but I'll do that later. Okay, so if you have the cards, and I think everybody who ordered the cards were mailed the cards, which means they're already folded for you. But if you were to have to fold them, it's a standard size card. So you would score on the 8.5-inch side at 4 1/4 to get a 4 1/4 by 5.5-inch card. And I made these chipboard panels that we're using for the display. They are 4 1/4 by 5.5. So it's the same exact size as the card. So when I put something on a panel, you would put it on the card the same way because it's the exact same size. It's just you'll have 3 individual cards instead of 3 panels. And the panel stands up like this, and you can open it as wide or as narrow as you have the space for. So the first thing we're going to do is connect those panels. And you should have 2 pieces of black cardstock in your kit here that are 2 inches by 5.5. And we are just going to score those. Let me get this out of the way. On the 2-inch side at 1 inch. And then we're going to put tape on them. You can use your A2G, you can use glue, whatever you want. I've got Miracle Tape here. When you fold, you've scored and you've created the dent on one side. You actually want to fold towards the bumpy side, just like a card. And I do this before I put the tape on just because I can see the line of where I want the tape a little easier. And so I'm going to put, this is 3/8 inch wide tape, but 1/4 inch tape would work fine too. Or if you had a wider one and wanted to put one strip. So this is the fold, the mountain side of the fold, and that's the side you want the tape on. And I'm putting it close to the fold, though not right on that fold line, and then close to the edge. And I'm going to put that on both sides of both pieces. Now, obviously, if you use a tape runner, it's a little quicker because you're just, running your gun down there. This takes a little more. This is a stronger tape, and usually when I'm doing construction, I'll use Miracle Tape because it is stronger. Now, this piece, it's not going to get a lot of wear and tear, and it's not heavy, and there's not a lot of pressure. So you could use the ATG, but I'm just going to use this to show you. Plus, it might slow me down a little, so you're not rushing to catch up with me. Okay. And then if you do have tape with the tape backing, just burnish it down. If you don't have tape backing, you'll burnish it after you attach it. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 of your panels and take the tape backing off. And you're going to attach it. This is the front of the panels. It doesn't matter in this case because the front and the back are the same, but letting you know it's the front. And you're going to attach the fold of your hinge piece right along the edge of your chipboard. And then you can burnish it and make sure you get a good stick. If it overhangs a little bit, then you can trim it. Mine, see on the side it looks like it's overhanging, but it's really not. So no trimming needed there. Then you're going to take the tape backing off of the other side. And you're going to push your 2 edges of your chipboard together. Make sure they're lined up. If you're not sure if they're lined up, you can use your 3rd piece of chipboard and push them against it, and then you know then you know that the bottoms are lined up and they're cut the same size, so the top should line up too. And then just fold that over and again burnish it on there. And you've got your one piece. So if you wanted to just make a booklet, you would only need the 2 pieces of cardstock. So then we're going to do the same thing to attach the 3rd piece of cardstock. So take the tape backing off of one side. And attach the fold against the edge. Now I don't have another piece of chipboard here, so you could use a ruler to line them up. I'm going to take the tape backing off first. So make sure they're lined up. Push them together. And then attach that to the other piece. And it does look like I've got a little bit of the hinge overhanging the edge of the cardstock, so I'm just going to trim that off. And just make sure it's attached really well. I know it's hard to see the black on black, but there we go. You'll notice my chipboard is split here. I made the cut wrong, and I just attached 2 pieces back together to get the right size. Yours should not look like that. Okay, I'm going to show you how to attach all the pieces first. And then I'm going to do the demo of the Distress Oxides, because I know some people might have to leave earlier than others. So I want to finish the project first, because that way, you know, the video will be up, and if you have to go back and watch it for that demo, you can do it, but at least you'll get your project finished first. So we're going to do the left panel first. And the base pieces are pretty straightforward. This is from is it Pumpkins? I don't want to tell you the wrong name. Yeah, Pumpkin Spice paper kit. That's kind of all my scraps. So, and I think I used all... I was going to say, I think I used all 6 sides of the paper, but I'm only seeing 5. So I don't know which one. I didn't use... Oh, the other side of this tree paper has these really cute sweaters and like teapots and things on them. It's a really cute paper. I just didn't think it fit with the others for this project, so I didn't use it. But if you bought the kit, the paper pack, you'd get this paper, which is cute for other projects. And of course, there's also the sticker sheet, which has fun embellishments. Okay, so we're going to put these 3 pieces of paper down first. So the first one we're going to put down are the pumpkins. And I just used my ATG gun for the adhesive on this. You can use whatever works for you. And I'm going to put this now. we're going to look at the panel as if it wasn't attached. So if you have a card, you just have your card front. Otherwise, put it, you're going to put it about 1/8 of an inch away from the fold line. You see that? And then you'll have 1/8 of an inch at the top and the bottom. Got a little overhang here that I didn't manage to cut off before. Okay, so you've got the 1/8 inch border around, just like we do on cards all the time. And then we're going to put the dots on. And again, you're going to do the 1/8 inch border around the 3 sides. And then we're going to put the stripe on. And the reason I did it that way is because the stripe might overlap a little. It might not. It's okay because we've got to put that shimmer trim on. So I'm putting the stripes just flush against the piece of pumpkin paper. And mine, obviously I didn't cut something quite perfectly straight, so because it overlaps just a hair at the top and there's just a little bit of spacing at the bottom. So, and then you're going to use this is the rose gold shimmer trim. It has sticky on it. It has that plastic backing on it that you have to sometimes struggle to get off. And we're going to just put it right between the stripes and the dot paper. If you want a little more dot showing, move it to the right. If you want a little more stripe showing, move it to the left, wherever you like it. Just so you're covering the seam between the two papers. And if you have trouble getting it straight, you could put a ruler down and line up the ruler with the edge of the paper here, and then place it down against the edge of the ruler, and that will help you get it down straight if that's an issue. So I'm just going to pause a minute so you guys can catch up. And if you have the card kit, it should fit exactly the same way because, like I said, it's the same size. So pretend you only have the black card, stock card, and it'll look like that. My lights don't like it when I get the white closer. It makes everything else darker. Okay. So you should have a rectangle of Harbor cardstock, and like all our cardstocks, the sides, one side has the actual color, the other side has a slightly lighter shade. Now I know this is a dark color, and in the camera you cannot see. Let's see. So this is I use the darker side on all of these. So that's the darker side. This is the lighter side. I can see slightly. I don't know if you can tell the difference. You are welcome to use either side. I use the darker side. Excuse me. The Harbor is this bluish green. It's in the background of the pumpkin paper. And then you have a panel that this panel was created with the Distress Oxide inks. So I'll show you that later. And then I stamped over it with the saying and the leaf stamp, and those are with Harbor ink as well. One thing, and I'll try to remember to say this later, when I'm doing the demo, when you do your backgrounds, they must dry completely before you stamp over them. Otherwise, the ink may run. And they do take a while to dry. I let them dry overnight just to be perfectly safe. Might have been overkill, but rather safe than sorry. So I just put adhesive on the back of this, and I'm going to attach it to that piece of Harbor cardstock. And then we're going to attach it to the panel with foam tape, and I just have to grab mine. I'm just cutting my foam tape. Okay. Now, some people like to cover the back of theirs. I just basically use mine in the corners and in the center. And put this towards a little more towards the left than center, and towards the bottom. And we're going to do the shimmer all at once at the end, because then it'll have to dry. Okay, for the center panel, we're going to put down our embossed panel. And you may notice that because it's add a tape again. I didn't even look. It does have a tendency to curl a bit, but once you put it down with the adhesive, it's fine. But make sure you get adhesive around all the edges so it does lay flat. Okay, so we're going to put this in the middle panel, centered, 1/8 of an inch border at the top, line up with those pieces. And then we're going to put the plaid panel below it. And it will probably overlap it a little bit. Just leave that 1/8 inch border at the bottom. And once again, we're going to put that rose gold shimmer trim right across the intersection of those. And you can put it higher or lower, wherever you like it. Oh, and you can use the ruler trick again if you need help lining it up. You could also just put it against one of the edges of the paper if you like that positioning to help with the lining it up too. So I'm going to move on to the right-hand panel and put those papers down first. And then I'm going to go back and we'll cut out the pumpkins to put here. So again, this is a paper made with the distressed oxides, same way as this panel. This is the stamp I use, this kind of overhead shot of the pumpkin. And when I do a 3 in a row like this, I'll show you how I do it to get the spacing. This is Harbor. This is one of the new colors in the new catalog. And it's not a solid stamp, but I'm going to put my foam under it to get a better impression. So what I'm going to do is make sure the stamp is upright in the position I want it. And I'm going to basically give it, just like we do with paper, give it even spacing on the right side, left side, and bottom. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the top. And you can either go this way, or if you feel better, I'm going to turn it around, just because if I lean over, then my head will be in the camera. So probably already is, huh? So then I'm going to basically give it that same spacing, the two sides and the top. Then I can go ahead and picture the middle to get it pretty evenly centered in the middle. Because it's a smaller space between the two pumpkins, I can more easily see where center is. If I stamped the center pumpkin first and then tried to put the top and the bottom on the spacing, I might not have gotten that spacing as well. So I find this doing it this way easier. but you have the benefit of not having to do any stamping in this project. So, all right, just setting that aside to dry. This is where your brown colored pencil comes in, because what I just colored the stems of my pumpkins. So, and if you don't have one handy, you could always do it after you've got it attached to the project. Or not at all. I'm not sure how markers work over the inks. Once we cut these pieces out, you'll have a little extra. So if you wanted to try that, you can go ahead and try it. But I wouldn't recommend it before testing it first. So I just colored those stems in, and I'm gonna attach it to the right side of the triptych. Give it the 1 inch spacing, 1/8 inch spacing. Then we're gonna do the tree paper. Although I suppose if you liked the sweaters, you could use that side too. Oops. And we're going to put that on the left side of the panel with the 1/8 inch spacing. There's probably just a sliver, like on mine here, just a sliver of space between the two. And we're going to cover that up with a very skinny strip of the Harbor cardstock. And I have 1/8 inch tape for this. You can also just use a bead of glue if you don't have the skinny tape. You could also, you can run your tape runner down it and then kind of wipe the tape away from the sides. That usually works too if it's a little too wide. It should be, it's probably just a little bit narrower than a 1/4 inch tape. And just put that between your two pieces of paper. Okay, I'm going to put my bling on next. And I managed to drop my piece with the bling on it the other day, and I can't find it anywhere. I don't know where it went. Luckily, I had more. These, sometimes with the bling, I like to put a dot of glue down. These are bigger. It has a little more glue, so it shouldn't be necessary. But if you're worried about it, go ahead and you can put a dot of glue. So this is the biggest one that I put right up here on the top right, near the top right corner of this panel. And then I'll show you if you want to put a dot of glue. The other two, sorry, this left-right thing is still getting to me, is up in the corner here. So that's a medium one and the small one up the top. So I'm going to put 2 dots of glue. Now, if you feel more comfortable, you could put 1 dot, put the bling down, and then put the other one, because that'll help you a little bit with the spacing. But I put the 2 dots of glue, and then I'll put the small one on top and the medium one on the bottom. Because every project needs a little bling. Okay, so now we can do all our fussy cutting. So you're going to need a big pumpkin and a medium pumpkin and a little pumpkin. And I think I gave almost everybody 2 little pumpkins, so if you wanted to add a second one, feel free. I'm going to also color these stems in with my brown colored pencil. Okay. Now I have a bling sticking to me. I don't know where that came from. And then you also have a bunch of leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my 3 pumpkins. And I'm just going to give it a little less than 1/8 of an inch border around the outside of the pumpkin. And again, I apologize for not having the thin cuts. Just cut these out for you, but I didn't know when they were coming in, and it turns out they just came in, so I wouldn't have been able to wait for them. Apparently, like everything else close to my heart, I had trouble getting in some of the supplies for this catalog. Because there were quite a few delays, but I think for all of you who have a catalog, if you need a catalog, let me know, but I think most of the product is in now. And luckily, pumpkins aren't really all that challenging to cut out. Now, if you're going to make 50 of them, then maybe, yes, I would definitely want the thin cuts. But honestly, sometimes it takes just as long to cut out with the thin cuts as to cut it out with the scissors, don't you think? I did a lot of cutting with thin cuts for the Christmas cards, so it took me a while. Okay, 3 pumpkins, and I'm just looking to see if I had another leaf here, because apparently I stamped mine in a wet spot and it's not looking that great. I do have another piece of paper though, so I can stamp another one. I stamped the leaves with New England ivy, which is a green. Okay, I'll let that dry for a minute. I said before you had to make sure to dry your distress oxides completely before stamping over them. You could also use the heat gun to dry them, but honestly, I'd rather just let them sit. So you're going to need 3 of these leaves that curl. And I don't know how best to describe it. This one, which I guess the stem is on the left and it curls down, you need one of those. And then the one with the stem that curls down with the stem on the right, you need 2 of those if you're going to do the same configuration as I am. But honestly, you can move the leaves around in a bunch of different ways and it'll look good since they're just sticking out from behind the pumpkins. I haven't seen any comments in the chat, so I assume everybody's working hard and there aren't any questions or issues. But if there are, just let me know. Just going to be careful about touching this one since it's still drying. Our inks dry pretty fast, but because it is on this this inked surface, it might take a few extra minutes. You can feel it. You can feel the ink on there. It feels kind of cool, actually. All right. So those are all your pieces. And I attached the leaves flat. But I attached the pumpkins with foam tape. So the first one I'm going to put down is actually the medium-sized pumpkin. And I'm going to just put one one layer of foam tape on him. And he's going to be on the left side here, and he's going to overlap that shimmer trim a little bit. And then I'm going to put one of these leaves that curl, the stem is on the right and the leaves curl down to the left. And I'm actually going to use some glue to attach it. You can use tape runner too, but there's a lot of little, kind of, the shape is odd, so I'm just going to try putting the glue on there. And I'm going to stick it so it's a little bit under that pumpkin into the left corner. Be careful when you put pressure. If you've used glue, when you put pressure down on there, it's easy to slide it. Okay, so now I'm gonna put this this guy down where I think I want him, and then I'm gonna slide the leaves underneath just to kind of get an idea of where I want to place them. So these are the two that curl the opposite way, and I just like the way they came out from the pumpkin. I don't have a whole lot of room here, so don't spread them out too much. All right, so I'm gonna glue my leaves down before before I put the pumpkin down, because then I don't have to worry about putting the adhesive down for the pumpkin and not being able to get the leaves underneath. So I'm going to put the glue on the two of these and then kind of attach them at the same time. So you can see on here, I'm basically putting it in the same spot. You've got about 1/4 of an inch to the edge of that plaid paper, and this top one, it overlaps that shimmer trim. I'm just going to eyeball it from here and put it down. But if you wanted to make sure, you can put your pumpkin back down too. Like I said, you don't have a lot of room, so it's not like you have a ton of space that you have to worry about. And then him, I'm just going to overlap. You're not really seeing the stems of these guys, you're just seeing the leaves. And then for this larger branch, I'm gonna put the pumpkin back in place and then kind of shove that underneath. I just don't want to overlap the quote there. Okay, so now we're going to put the pumpkin down, and I put the large pumpkin, and I put this guy down with 2 layers of foam tape. However, where he overlaps, I may have lied. He's only down with 1. This guy is down with 2. But you don't want to put foam tape on this side here where he overlaps the medium pumpkin, because then that side would be higher. And if you want it to lay flat, you can make sure you put some adhesive on that edge of the paper there, and it would attach to the pumpkin. But I kind of like it curled. It's curled a little bit, and I kind of like it loose because it gives it a little more dimension. But I'm just going to take note. So this side is overlapping, so I'm not going to put foam tape on that side. So when I turned it over, I'm going to put all the foam tape over here, and I'm going to leave that side empty. I'm going to close my glue too so it doesn't dry out. I do want to make sure I put a little piece. You're going to have to cut skinny piece underneath that stem. That'll give it some reinforcement. Doesn't like to focus when it's that close. My camera needs bifocals. And my scissors need to be cleaned again. Okay. So I just left that area empty. I'm just taking my backing pieces off over the garbage. Okay. And you can feel when you put it down, I'm right up against the edge of that foam tape, so I don't overlap it. Thanks, Catherine. Welcome. And so now we're going to put the tiny pumpkin on. And this one I did put on with 2 layers of foam tape. But see where it overlaps the large pumpkin here, I did put a small piece of 1 layer of foam tape. So it was attached and it would, be a flat surface. So usually what I do when I do, if I want a double layer of foam tape, I'll take my foam tape and I only want a little in this case. So I just fold over a piece and then cut it. And I've got, this one's 2 layers too. So then I've got a double layer. And then I can cut that into smaller pieces. And then I want that single layer. I don't need a huge piece because there's a little guy here. But that just gives it some support on the piece that's overhanging. And I put this guy too close to the top because it's overhanging there. So I just was able to move him a little bit. And there you go. So now you got some dimensional pumpkins. And now we can add some shimmer. Okay, so your shimmer brushes are brand new. I know I have a new one here. Hold on. No. Okay, so whoops. Okay, so you see this yellow piece of plastic ring? You have to take that out. So you just unscrew this portion of it and you take it off and throw it away. I am not taking it off because I don't want to activate this pen yet. When you do that and you screw this back on, it'll screw all the way down to the other side of the white plastic. And so it will pierce, the top of it will pierce the cylinder that the liquid is in. And then you can use your pen. It's a protection so both the liquid doesn't dry out, and when you ship them, they don't explode all over the place. Hopefully when I shipped them, they didn't explode all over the place. Okay, so I recommend you get some, and I'm going to put a couple layers here, but I recommend you get some scrap paper to test this on first, because it does take a little bit of practice. And because you have to squeeze it to get the liquid going. Now, my tip has color in it. Yours will not. Yours will just be white for now because the liquid has not started flowing. To get it going, you're going to have to squeeze it. And then you're going to get a puddle. And that's why you don't want to work on your project right away. You actually want, in this case, a relatively dry brush because we don't want a lot of the color. We just want the sparkle. So I'm going to move this out of my way so I don't make a mess. But I am going to get another piece of scrap paper. We don't want a lot of liquid because we don't want this getting really wet, because if you get it really wet, the ink could bleed. So the first one I'm going to do is this leaf here next to the autumn saying, and I'm just brushing over, and this is still got a lot of liquid. Just over the leaves and the stem. And that color, you're not really going to see that color. It's going to absorb. Gosh, you can't. There you can see the sparkle there. The color's going to absorb into the paper in this case. You're just going to see the sparkle. That's all we want. In the middle pumpkins, I basically colored in the whole pumpkins. You can just highlight the top if you want. You can, highlight some of the sections. So don't squeeze it a little bit to get it going if you need to, but otherwise don't really squeeze it. It'll flow just fine. I'm trying to kind of color in between the lines and not really color over the stamped lines. Now, if you don't like sparkly pumpkins, then feel free to skip this step. Use your shimmer brush on something else. I'm sure there's something you would want sparkly. These pens come in a ton of different colors, and they're a lot of fun. Like I said, in this case, the color isn't really important on these because it's kind of absorbing into the inked paper. We're really just getting the sparkle. But if you were to use this on, on white paper, like right there, you're going to see a lot more of the color. So it just depends on the look you want. I just felt when I put this project together that it just needed a little something else. So now you can see, maybe you can see, you probably can't, but my brush is getting a little drier now. I've used up a lot of the ink. So where I put down a lot, there's a lot more sparkle, and now where I didn't put as much, it's a little more subtle, which really was the look I was looking for. But I did discover when I was doing this that you can use one of the white pencil erasers. This is a mechanical pencil with a white eraser. You can actually erase some of the sparkle. But wait till it dries completely. So if you look at it tomorrow and you think that it has a little too much sparkle for you, then you can go ahead and erase it. Let's not put anything on top of there. So I went through and I just I erased a little, and it does take away a little of the sparkle. And if you're not comfortable doing it yet, just practice on some scrap paper. All right. And now on this panel, so those basically I colored them in all the way. On this panel, I just kind of added some sparkle around the stem. So my pen is much drier now, which is really the way I wanted it. And I'm just kind of adding some right at the top about a quarter of an inch or so, or maybe 3/8 around the stem. So it just looks like the top of the pumpkin. Is sparkling. Now you can color in the whole thing if you want. This gives you all the fun of coloring without having to worry about actually staying in the lines. So it's pretty fun too. That's why you add a lot of sparkle, because you just keep going because, oh, it's fun, it looks cool. Before you know it, everything has sparkles on it. Or shimmer. I should say shimmer because it's a shimmer brush. So hopefully you can see that. I know it's difficult to see the difference on the camera. There you go. You can see a lot of shimmer that way on those middle ones. And then you can't really see. There you go. On the leaves. And it's funny because the way the light hits it, it looks like it's solid in the camera. But if you look at, if you look at it under different lights, it just catches it differently, and it does not look like I have a white pumpkin, obviously. So hopefully you enjoy that. Did I sparkle the leaves too? I did not sparkle the leaves. I just this one in the saying because I wanted some on each panel, but I did not sparkle the green leaves. But you can. Maybe it's dew, the morning dew that hit everything in the pumpkin patch. So you can see on my scrap paper here, well, you can see some color, but not as much sparkle. But you can see how that would be fun to color in some images you have stamped on white cardstock, or a light colored cardstock anyway. And then just make sure you put your top on. I store mine upside down. I don't know if you have to, honestly. Why I do that, I'm not sure, but another warning. Do not, you can shake them with the top on if you need to. You can hear there's one of those beads in there to keep the liquid going. Do not take the top off and shake it. It will go everywhere. Luckily, I haven't done that, but I have heard stories from other people. So unless you want your entire craft room to be sparkly, don't do that. Okay. So now I am going to show you how I made the beautiful orange paper. So that's it. Our triptych or our cards are done. Let that shimmer brush dry for a while. So the first piece I'm going to make is an orange piece. And I'm going to use spiced marmalade, candied apple, abandoned coral, whoops, mustard seed, and vintage photo. Now you don't have to use a ton of colors. You can use 2 and still get a nice blend. You should be okay now. Some of the older pads, they didn't have the name on the back. You know, now you can see that it says vintage photo on the back. So then you took the top off and it's like, wait, what color is that? So just look, if you get them and you open them, just look and make sure it says it on the back. And if it doesn't say what color it is on the back, write it on the back before you take all your tops off, and then you're like, oh wait, what color was this? And I am going to use the and my sponges are a little roughed up because I've been using them a lot. These are the Ranger daubers, I guess, and they come, you can get either felt, but these are the sponge. You need the sponge attachment to do these. If you don't have these and you want to play, there's also a rectangular one. I like the round ones, but you could use the rectangular one too with the rectangular sponge. You could also use a makeup sponge. The only trouble with the makeup sponge is, one, your fingers tend to get inky, which is, you know, they wash, but and then sometimes the edges, like you'll get, you know, you've got these square edges. So sometimes when you're blending the ink, you'll tend to get an edge, which you can blend out, but if you just want to play around to try them, then certainly they'll work. The makeup sponges will work. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the sponges I was using. All right, so normally I have one for each color, but I've got my other one set up with the green and I don't want to change them all. So I'm going to go from color to color, which if you have vastly different colors, I would not recommend, but because some of these are so similar, it's going to be fine. So there's a lot of different ways to put these on, but I'm just going to get some ink on my sponge, and I like to make a circle. And I move it in different areas of the paper. Now remember, you know, you're going to be like, oh, this is a lot of this color on the paper, but you're really using, when you stamp, you're only using a smaller piece of the paper. So you're going to get a lot of, you know, it's not going to be like big areas of one color. And the more you put the dauber to the ink pad, the more ink is going to absorb into the sponge. And so, you know, it'll be bolder when you put it. Now, see, these colors aren't vastly different. And part of the reason it's not vastly different is because I'm using the same sponge. So I can keep going to try to use up that color. And so the second color kind of overlap. Let me put some orange on here. This is the spiced marmalade. You can do this with these, like I said, these are the distress oxides, which are a pigment ink. It is a creamier ink, which is why you kind of have this chalky, creamy look to it. It takes longer to dry, pigment inks. You can do it with our regular ink pads. It's going to be a different look. It's not going to be quite as bold of a color. Of course, a darker color is going to be bolder. But here's the difference. This is a thicker ink. When I go on top, like I'm going on top of those pinks, you're getting an orange, and you're still seeing that lighter color on top of the darker colors. That's the difference. If you use a dye ink, the colors will just mix together. These sit on top, those will mix. So eventually you keep adding color to that, it gets muddy. You keep adding the pigments on top of each other, they're not going to get muddy. They're going to cover up the color that's underneath and change it. Or still, you're still going to see the new color. So that means I can put a light color. Now I'm going to go to the yellow, and I can put a light color over a darker color, and I can change it to lighten it. If you're using a dye ink, you can't ever lighten a color. You can only get darker. There are other pigment inks. There's like Colorbox, and all the different brands have pigment inks, and I need to show you. When you start to get a lot of color on here, the color will, if you touch it, you will pick it up with your fingers. So either use a tissue or a scrap piece of cardstock to hold it, because if you get it on your fingers and then you touch a spot, you have you can transfer it and get a colored fingerprint where you don't want it. So any pigment ink will give a similar look. Now these distress oxides have other qualities to them, which I may show you at other times, which makes these nice. But if you have other pigment inks, you can try other pigment inks too. So now I'm just putting some of this brown in here, and I know, sometimes it doesn't look so great, but as you blend it, see now, let me show you. So over here, you can really see the circles that I put in, but I'm going to go over it again with this coral color. And I'm changing the color that was there, but I'm really blending, and now you can't see the edge of that circle anymore. And you can keep changing the color of what you have here. You're like, oh my God, there's too much yellow over here. I don't want any more yellow. So just go over it, and you can change it. And now it's more orangey. And like this brown, this brown spot is really dark. So I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to lighten it. And that's one thing I tend to do. I tend to use a lighter color and then like kind of use that lighter color to blend it. But that can change the color of the whole piece. Like this is yellow. So it's gonna, these are all warm colors, so it's already warm. But I'll show you when I did the green, because the light color I used was gray. So when I used the gray to blend, it really, gave it an overall grayish tone to it, which you may or may not want. But it's just fun to play around. And then And the more, here you can see the defined circles, but here those circles aren't defined anymore because I blended those edges. Now you can, I find it easier to do the circles. You could do, you can put it on in stripes. If you like stripes, if you wanted to do a rainbow, you can hold away from the ink, the paper will bend, but like I said, you don't want to put your fingers in the ink. But you want to make a rainbow look here and just go from one color to the next. No, I think I did the darker one. And then, okay, just blend over that line. So it really gradates from one to the other. And they make beautiful backgrounds. Like you can make a whole, I'll give you little sneaky information. I'm doing my Christmas cards with these this year, so you'll see another example, but I'm not giving you a sneak preview. But you can make a beautiful just background, or like I did here, just bits and pieces. And I think you can see that, okay, maybe that's not so attractive, but when you stamp the pumpkin on here and you're only using a bit of it, that's really where the beauty comes out. It's almost magical. All right, I'm just going to show you the green ones next. And if you like these and you want me to do more classes with more ideas, just let me know, because I'm happy to do that, because I have quite the collection now. And if I did a class and I used certain colors and you didn't have those colors but you had other colors, certainly you could. Whoops. If we're making a background, obviously you can use any colors you want. All right, so these are my greens. And this is peeled paint and pumice stone. That's the gray. Mowed lawn. Whoops. And I forgot, I did use the vintage photo with this one too. So it's the same technique. And they do sell reinkers for these. So when you go crazy and make a million backgrounds and your pads get dry, you're all set. So obviously the more colors you have, the more you can create with the blending. Get some darkers in there with the brown. And then, so like I said, the gray, I kind of like to blend with the lighter color, but it does, like in this case with the gray, it's definitely cools those brown and gray down, and it kind of gives it a different look. Now you might like that look, but you might not. So so be careful as you're changing colors. But you can see, like, okay, oh, I don't know, it got a little muddy there. I can go ahead with this peeled paint, kind of chartreusey green, celery, um, and kind of warm it back up again, and then put some more brighter spots in it with the mowed lawn. So that is the 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 quality of these distress oxides, is that you can keep layering them and still get a great look, because the colors are not sinking into each other. Let me show you. No, I'm not going to confuse you, but if you use the dye ink color after color after color, it just keeps getting darker after darker after darker. Now you can do it if you if you're careful about how you're blending them. You just don't want to go over the top over and over again. Lindsay, no, I don't have a deadline right now. Because I don't have a deadline. If I decide on a deadline, I'll email you, or I'll email the group and let you know. I'm going to be in and out of town for the month of October, so I don't have any classes scheduled. I definitely will have classes scheduled in November. I just have to figure out what I want to do. If there's something in particular you want to do, let me know. Of course, the Christmas card class is next week, October 4th. So most of you have your kits, or they're being delivered to you this week. And so then I'll get a sneak preview of the next catalog, and then I can decide what classes I'm going to do in November and December. Probably will do some kind of winter thing, and coming up in January, probably a Valentine's Day thing. But I don't know. I have to get inspired and see. But hope you enjoyed the project and the demo, and let me know if you want to do more of it. And if you have any question, the recording will stay up as always. And if you have any questions afterwards, just let me know. All right, I'm going to sign off. So I will see you all soon. Thanks so much.